I'm here to discuss the results of the 2024 Indian election with Madan here, who's a chartered accountant who writes about music. I've got Jiva sir here, who's a communist sympathizer, a Marxist who's written a book about the history of Russia. I'm a Gen Z who doesn't use pronouns, so we've covered the ideological spectrum here. So, y- you know,
Jiva, I'm thinking people should not think that I'm like that's omniscient gurus who have an opinion on each and everything. So I'll make it clear at the outset. I got this invitation to join. I didn't ask for an opportunity to speak about politics. Otherwise,
right,
people are going to think, what is this guy who writes about film music doing, talking about politics? What does he know? So disclaimer, I don't know anything.
right. I mean, more than us not knowing anything, clearly the exit pollsters don't know anything because they got this
Yeah,
election dramatically wrong. Like 100 seats off.
yeah, yeah.
So is this a similar thing to what happened in 2004? Like, is it very because I wasn't there. So was this the same sort of chaos that happened when 2004 the pollsters went very wrong and the results came out very differently?
Yes, to an extent, except that I would say this time they were even more blatantly off because even in
Okay.
2004, nobody predicted a majority for BJP.
Yeah.
It was just that the NDA coalition is going to win,
Yeah.
and with probably similar numbers like 99. They weren't predicting like 350, 400 par was all. I mean, that was like peak of coalition era. Nobody had seen 400 plus after Rajiv Gandhi's government. So
Yeah.
nobody even entertained these thoughts. So to that extent, they were at least closer to where the eventual numbers landed up. I think NDTV's poll had actually said that NDA might fall short of a majority, but would still be the single largest coalition, and then even that didn't turn out to be the case. But this
Okay.
time they were dramatically off. I was especially surprised that even the India Today poll got it so wrong
Yeah.
because they have traditionally been fairly accurate. I don't know about the 97% accuracy that they used to claim, but they used to get somewhere close to the actual numbers, and they were
Mm.
way off, way off.
Yeah.
So it shows that probably, maybe when people become too famous, then they go out and elicit opinions, then the voters don't probably tell them the truth. Or this time, because many people did not want to vote for BJP, they didn't want to signal it. That is, I think
Okay.
that's a possibility, that they didn't want people to know, because then BJP might, you don't know what they might would do with the
Yeah.
way they have
No
behaved.
one wants a
If they
bulldozer
start
at their
sensing
house.
very early that this is not going their way, then what if they don't let you come in and vote? That's a real problem in rural areas. So
Yeah.
that's probably the, because even Prashant Kishore complained that, look, I was going around asking people, but if they are telling you that they are going to vote for Modi and then they don't, then how am I as a psephologist supposed to judge how it's going to pan out? So that seems to have been what happened.
Right. So you don't think there's any attempt to like manipulate the stock market or try to rig the sexes? People are accusing a lot of pollsters and channels of doing.
Yeah, so I think that is a possibility, and that is where I will stop because we live in a very defamatory times.
Yeah.
So I am not going to lend any more credence to those rumors than that. Is it a
Right.
possibility? Yes. And also, I want to point out that we have previously never seen a sitting prime minister say that you should buy into the markets. I
Yeah.
remember that very distinctly. I was there in 2004, and whether you like the implication of that or not, I was among those who was disappointed that Vajpayee's government didn't win, and I
Yeah.
still think probably a second term in a coalition for NDA at that time would have been better than having Modi in 2014. But anyway, that's a different discussion. But in
Yeah.
2004, the moment the election results came, the market stumbled. And then
Yeah.
Chidambaram said that, yeah, I'm not going to lose sleep over the Sensex. You're talking about one of the most market oriented, as in ideologically
Yeah.
market oriented FMs we have ever had. And he said he doesn't give a shit about what the markets are doing. And here you have the top leaders telling you to buy into the markets, that should raise suspicions. And I am happy that Rahul Gandhi didn't waste any time in talking
Yeah.
about it at the press conference. This is the right strategy to go that they need to confront the ruling party at every opportunity now, because now they get to really be an opposition in parliament.
Yeah,
They were just otherwise making statements on the press, carrying out protests, marches, but parliament, it was completely rigged. There was no scope for them to confront the PM and, raise their voice where it really matters. So now that space is opened up, so they have really started on the front foot, and we should see how this pans out.
right. So I also want to ask people, before the exit polls came out, right? What were your personal estimations of what the numbers would be? So Jiva sir, what did you think would happen? Like, what did you expect the
Yeah, let
number to be?
Jiva have a word.
Yeah, I was actually assuming that the NDA is really going to sweep the polls. Frankly, when in January, right, when the Ram Temple
Yeah,
was being opened, there
yeah,
was nationwide hysteria or
yeah,
devotion, newfound devotion towards Ram, even in a fairly rational, so-called rational state like Tamil Nadu, right? So I
yeah,
was seeing a lot of people who were not BJP voters. They were really celebrating it as though it was a huge family celebration or something like that. I was really shocked, and I was seeing a wave of sympathy. And recently, so 2 months ago, I was on a trip to Shirdi. I
yeah,
saw nearly one in 4 to 5 houses having a saffron flag planted on the roof. So I already had a very, I'm not sure, I had a very skewed opinion about the North. I thought they had already fallen to the Hindutva agenda of the BJP government, and they thought that this was the first time they thought their own people were ruling. That's what
yeah,
we have a Hindu prime minister. That was what was bandied about. You remember, right? When Modi was elected, wherever you see, I could see BJP voters saying that we have an Indian prime minister, a person who works for us, who belongs to us. That's what they were proclaiming, and I thought the people had already fallen to the propaganda. So I thought they are going to sweep these elections, and even if they were not going to, I thought at least here and there might be minor EVM manipulations. I'm still not sure about whether EVMs could be manipulated or not, but I thought there is a strong wave of support towards the government. And India was, I had already written off about India in 2000 when CAA and during the Corona time, right, I had already written
yeah,
off. I had almost stopped following Indian politics because I thought it was no use following all those stuff and getting yourself worked up on that. So, but
right,
the election result came as a great surprise to me. I still think that my India is still alive. Some amount of sense, rationality is still there. Nehru is still alive. That's what I still think. People are still able to separate religion from politics and
yeah.
choose the government based on real economic issues. They are not completely swept away by religion and all those stuff.
I mean, the real story of this election is Ayodhya. I did not, in my wildest dreams, think that they'd lose Ayodhya. It is insane. I mean, there are some reasons for it. I made a point to go and like check what was going on. So if you had read the Hindu and if you had read like some of the more independent media, you could see that people in Ayodhya were not very happy with what was happening. There were a lot of demolitions that were carried out to build this fantasy waterfront luxury properties and hotels there, and a lot of poor people got displaced. There's also the caste factor. So, but either way, it is still like a very stunning reputation. It's so stunning that the prime minister is no longer using Jai Shri Ram in his speeches anymore. So, what do you both make of that? I don't think anyone saw it coming
One
though.
point,
So,
yeah, one point, Mother.
yeah,
Just I'll take
sure, sure.
one more. There is a magazine, Madan. I'm not sure whether you have read it. It's called Arunjwal. It's being run by Samas, a Tamil journalist. Okay. He was working with the
Uh,
Tamil Hindu. So,
Okay.
okay.
so that magazine, he was carrying an all India tour about during the elections. He kept insisting on one point. Uh, People in the north, in the Hindi belt, everywhere, people are still worried about inflation. People are still worried about jobs. People are still worried about their livelihoods, especially post COVID, right? And he kept stressing on that point. And he was very assured of one thing, that whoever wins this election, we are going to have a very strong opposition party. That's what he kept telling again and again. When you go and visit his website, right? And about Uttar Pradesh, he had made one point that Yogi Adityanath's administration is much better than the previous ones. That was what he had mentioned. So, I mean, there were a lot of welfare schemes that were going on. Law and order had improved. And again, he's not somebody who belongs to the saffron camp. He's very much a liberal like us. So, I was assuming that people are probably, it was just an assumption. But again, every time this kind of things comes up, right? In 2019, people told that in 2019, before Pulwama came, I assumed that we are going to have a Khichdi government led by Congress. But again, after Pulwama happened, things turned the other way. So I thought like this time too, this journalist, Summers is going to get it wrong. But I was surprised. And again, this Ayodhya thing, right? As Aman pointed out, I was reading about a lot of small traders who were being displaced from their the traditional locations. They were being moved to other areas to facilitate huge hotels or big no, I mean, big complexes to facilitate Ayodhya becoming a devotional hub, devotional tourism. That's now happening in a very large scale. But frankly, I also did not expect that this would reflect in the elections as well. Yes, Madan, you can go on.
Yeah, so I wanted to make 2 points. So one is unfortunately this time, I've been away at work in Africa, that which I've, since Jan 23, I've been outside. So I was not in India, and specifically I was no longer in Maharashtra. Uh, Maharashtra has always been a swing state.
Yeah.
If you've been there, then it's in the people's DNA. They are pretty balanced. And
Oh,
there's a lot of Maratha pride, so they don't think that anybody can just come and trample their opinions. They are not
Yeah.
afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, and it's not going to be in a very necessarily defiant way, loud way. They're very like quietly, they will just state their what they think. And with everything going on, the way Shiv Sena was split and then NCP was split. Had I
Yeah.
been there during election time, I could have gotten at least a sense of what was going on in Maharashtra, and then I might have had the opinion that, I don't think that they're going to do well in Maharashtra, because even sitting here, I thought that with Maharashtra, it's become too messy. They're not going to get the numbers that they did in 2019. And but other than that, I certainly didn't expect them to fall short of the majority. My sense was that all this 400 400 par is all an exaggeration. And that sense was based on that, or at North, they're already maxed out in 2019. The numbers they did in North, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Karnataka were absolutely insane in 2019.
Yeah.
So at best, you're only going to match that. And then where are you going to get additional numbers from? Tamil Nadu, no, forget it. You're not going to win the state this time. And looking at this year's results, maybe it will take at least 2 election cycles before they're actually a major force in Tamil Nadu. And then where else? Maybe Bengal, maybe Orissa, but that's not going to get you to 400, from
Yeah.
300 all the way. So that was my sense. So I thought they will do between 272 to 300. They'll get a comfortable majority, but it will not be 400 par or anything. And then now, of course, this is the second point that I wanted to bring in, that actually I have a senior in my company whose hometown is Ayodhya,
Okay.
and I I don't it's not like I frequently talk to him about politics, but once, like, I had asked him, this was in December or so before the inauguration, that what do you think is going to happen, like, oh, it's all absolutely a buzz, it's going to transform Ayodhya, this, that. He was super proud. And even afterwards, in April, when we were having a discussion, he just mentioned, there's a big delegation coming to Ayodhya. So there is a massive tourist influx. Property prices have gone up. Now, when you look at those things, you would assume that Ayodhya should be a lock for
Yeah.
BJP. So what has gone wrong? One, it could be the discontent against these demolitions and all. The other thing is that we have been thinking that caste has become irrelevant, but this time it came back to the fore.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about again that first Modi said that they are going for 400 par, and then one of the BJP leaders said that they will get 400 plus and change the constitution.
Yes.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that BJP leader was none other than the sitting MP of Faizabad, which is Ayodhya, that is Lallu Singh.
Right. I'll just
So
check on that
what?
because I think it was some Karnataka. There were a lot of people who said this. So
Oh, okay. But
like
I think I heard Ravish Kumar say that it was Lallu Singh who said this. I don't know,
yeah,
but it's possible.
yeah,
Now
because
forget it. Let's say he didn't.
hmm,
But now what the India Alliance does is that they strategically field a very experienced candidate and more importantly a Dalit candidate
yeah,
in Faizabad. So what that does is to it again splits the Dalits from the Hindu consolidation.
yeah,
Hindu consolidation was Modi's biggest achievement because for years people had said that BJP as an upper caste, upper class party is never
yeah,
going to be able to consolidate the Hindus. And Modi, he's an OBC anyway, and he actually, when he campaigned in UP in 2014, he said, "I'm a Dalit like you." He even he stressed it, or he, padded up his resume, so to speak. So by doing that, he was able to consolidate all castes under one roof. And surprisingly, even when Adityanath, who is a Rajput, took over power, he was able to continue that at the state level. It didn't
yeah,
break. I had been watching the 22 election closely to see what is going to happen, and because I thought this is going to be interesting because now Rajput is definitely a much more of a forward caste. So, are they still going to consolidate under him, or are the old caste resentments going to come back up to the surface? When they didn't, I thought that now Kamandal has really conquered Mandal. But this time, Mandal politics has come back and with a big bang. Because actually, if you see, then TDP has done brilliantly in Andhra Pradesh, then BJP
yeah,
did very well in Orissa. So they actually did get those bonus seats that they had been looking for. But they
yeah,
did so badly in UP, which they never dreamt that would ever happen. Nobody predicted that, except, there were, as you were saying, like that Tamil journalist that he mentioned, plus, of course, Yogendra Yadav had been talking about it again and
yeah,
again and again. But when I would read the comments, there were not a lot of people who were saying that yeah, he's talking sense. Most people are ridiculing him and were saying that his fantasies are going to be proven wrong on June 4th.
Right.
yeah,
So that is the surprise that it was a real silent majority or minority, whatever you call it, that was holding out and not being very vocal. Perhaps because they sensed that the moment they talk very loudly about this, then BJP will take corrective steps
yeah,
and they might claw back the election.
yeah,
So, I'm sure they would have orchestrated a Muzaffarnagar if, again, had they
yeah,
known
Right.
that they are going to lose Uttar Pradesh.
yeah.
Right.
In fact,
But
I'll
they
give you the
did.
most shocking number. So I was reading CSDS Lokniti's post-poll survey. According to them,
Yeah.
UP most preferred choice for PM is Rahul Gandhi with 36% versus Narendra Modi with
Oh,
32%.
Wow.
wow, wow.
That
Wow.
is an earthquake.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
we have to remember also that Rahul Gandhi has won Raebareli with 4 lakh plus votes.
Yes.
His PA assistant, whatever you call it, crushed Smriti Irani with like 2 lakh
One
plus
Amethi.
votes. Yes. And Modi himself
Yep.
has only won Varanasi with a 1 lakh 50 margin, which is half of what
Exactly.
Hema Malini has won Mathura with.
Exactly.
So
Wow.
we,
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh, to add to Aman's point, right?
yeah,
I mean, the journalist I was talking about, right? Samas, the Tamil journalist, he was saying that campaign preparations in Raebareli, Amethi, so everywhere Congress had not planned at all. Actually, Rahul was very ambivalent. He was initially not sure about contesting his family seat, right? He was in Wayanad, and I saw that everywhere you go you don't see much of Congress euphoria. So even the Congress workers are not working properly, and the last he filed the nomination on the last day, I guess,
yes,
of the.
yeah,
And we all expected that he's going to lose that again, once again. And he had written explicitly that Congress has lost the plot in UP because Rahul Gandhi is not quite sure, and but the only thing that was slightly giving us some cheer was Modi was going full on Hindutva this time.
Yes.
as Madan pointed out, right? They did not orchestrate Muzaffar there, but they were very much on the cusp of it. They wanted something to happen. He was openly lashing out on
Yeah.
Muslims, and
Mhm.
this was something that has never happened. Even
True.
Advani, in his prime, had not spoken so like that before, if I'm not wrong. So that was some amount of cheer. People are telling that he's losing this. That's why he's
Yeah.
so afraid. He was going berserk. Really. I did. I was actually very disappointed with how an Indian Prime Minister was projecting himself in front of
Yeah.
the Indian as well as the international media. What would people think? I was expecting a response from the Arab countries. He was openly calling out. He's going to pluck your Mangal Sutras and hand it over to the Muslims. Congress is going to give reservations for the Muslims. What the hell? What was he doing? And again, I thought some amount of contempt notice at least would be served by the EC, and I think he will face some backlash. Okay, this is not going to go easy on him.
I
That's what
mean,
I
for
think.
me, the moment where I thought he lost it was the speech where he said Ambani and Adani are sending cash in tempos to the Congress, and Rahul Gandhi immediately is like, अगर भेज रहे हैं तो आप इन्वेस्टिगेशन लगाइए, ईडी सीबी को बिठाइए, हम तैयार हैं. आपका आपका खुद का एक्सपीरियंस है क्या पैसे मिलने में? And I thought that was a brilliant retort. Like I
Right,
really was
right,
for the first time in my life was very impressed by Rahul Gandhi's speech
right.
and how he went up there. So do you think this sort of like extreme comments that the PM made, Mangal Sutra, दो भैंस है आप एक भैंस छीन के कांग्रेस मुसलमान को दे देंगे, was it because he knew he was losing ground, or was it because he'd gotten so complacent that he just started going for the greatest hit sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. So I actually I had assumed that uh, in Karnataka, what Congress did is they successfully mobilized the Muslim vote in the state elections,
Yeah.
and they made a stunning comeback. It was a sweeping victory. So
Yeah.
I thought that he's leaning right as a counter to that to mobilize the Hindu vote,
Hmm.
to make it come out in large numbers. Like he's like, now is your chance. You have to come out because they are going to. So now, if you don't come out, then don't blame me. That kind of thing. I'm not necessarily sure how afraid he was because, um, you know, after some of the other things that he said doesn't suggest that he was very afraid.
Yeah.
And I want to make 2 points here because I wrote this on my blog on Friday, and then yesterday I noticed that when Mohak Mangal, who is interesting, he's not very pro-liberal, but he's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
I know one of those YouTubers. So he actually, when he made a kind of open letter video to Modi, and he mentioned the heat during the election cycle. I had
Yeah.
also talked about exactly the same thing in my blog, that sitting here I could visualize that the turnout is not going to be great when you have such extreme heat. I mean, people are unable to do construction work in the afternoon
Yeah.
in Delhi, and there were a few people died on one single day in Rajasthan during the peak of the heat wave. How are
Yeah.
people going to come out and vote? So, and when I saw that the turnout numbers are trending downward, and in fact, they trended lower and lower in May when there was much more of voting in UP, Bihar, etc., where
Right.
Haryana, where they're real strongholds. So I did think that that would have an effect on the voting. How much, it was difficult to say, and because of the past track record of the India Alliance, I did not think that that would still deny them a majority. The
Yeah.
other thing is, I've noticed that even in 2019, as we got closer to the end of the election cycle, Mr. Modi began to make more and more ridiculous statements. I'm not necessarily talking only about the Hindutva agenda, which he rolled out last time too, to make sure that he would not, he's just ruthless. I don't think that he was scared so much as he was just trying to use every weapon in his arsenal to make sure he doesn't lose. But I remember last time also, he gave an interview to News 24, I think it was, Deepak Chaurasia basically, and that is where he said that, I told the military that cloud hai to benefit hoga, and then that became
Uh,
a big meme. So
Yeah.
this time it got even worse. He said that, I think sometimes that maybe I was put on this earth by God. And you have to remember, religion is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
If you're using religion to exploit it to get votes, you have to remember that when you make a statement like this, then people who are intensely religious are not going to like it. They are going
Yeah.
to pause and ask, like, wait, what is he talking about? And then,
Yeah.
of course, the next thing he said is that nobody even knew about Gandhi until
Yeah.
Attenborough made the film.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, so, so I think actually he does get very tired during these long national election cycles because state elections don't last so long.
Yeah.
Continuous traveling, I think he does get exhausted and it starts eating up into his mental processes. So I think he should follow the standard that he had set for Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi, etc., to wheel them out of the party in 2014 and step down midway in his term when he will turn 75 because I don't think he is up to another grueling national election cycle in 2029 because
Yeah.
with each time he gets a little more senile as the election cycle reaches its end. That's clearly that something seems to be up with him. That when you get to the last 10, 15 days, he starts saying absolute batshit stuff. So, yeah, so I think that happened this time too. Probably when a person is in that state, he's not going to be very receptive to advise also that, sir, this is what is happening. This is what our private polls are telling. So we need to course correct. He may not be in a mood to listen.
Right.
Yeah. About the heat, right? Andhra is not the hottest state, like, ever. But
Mhm.
Andhra had a 90% turnout. So I
Ah,
don't
My
necessarily think it's
goodness.
a temperature. I mean, because I'm from AP and I'm from Guntur. I'm very close to Amravati, and like my
Very,
family,
very hot.
yeah, and my family
mm.
is all hardcore TDP, so we're all very happy. But I think ultimately it's not just about the temperature. People need to have the intent to vote also. Like,
Yeah.
if it's a very
Hmm.
polarized election, like what happened in AP, and then people will come out to vote. And I think people just weren't interested. They were bored in the north this time. Do you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
there was
It's
certain Modi
possibly also
fatigue?
fatigue.
Yeah,
Yep. I was just saying the same thing. Yeah, I think that some fatigue has probably set in, and I reading reports, of course, after the election. No, after election, everybody's wiser after the event. But after the elections, some of the reports I read, they said that people were telling them that, yeah, mandir and all is good, but it's not going to feed my stomach. So
hmm,
it had got to that point. For 10
right,
years is a very long time. It was
yeah,
okay in 2019 also. By now, people have started asking. And yeah, I want to bring in an economic angle here that India actually had one of the most fiscally conservative responses to the pandemic. If you saw trillions of dollars of stimulus in US,
yeah,
in India, it was like nothing. We are not going, not only they didn't give anything practically, they also hiked gas prices
yeah,
insanely in 2022. I
yeah,
remember I was talking to a friend just before I was going to leave for Africa, and I was telling him, like, "Oh, what are they doing? Like, they are only running the government for people like us. No, how do they think common people are going to be able to take on such a big hike in gas prices? Like, it's a very direct hit on their, belly, literally."
yeah,
So in that sense, I'm not surprised now looking at the results that okay, the pain had finally gotten to the level where they said, you know what, if this is all he's got, then it's not enough. We need something more. We have,
yeah,
and the other thing is now the temple is done and dusted. We have to
yeah,
remember that this is, I think, what none of us thought about. We're thinking
Right.
about the temple as a big vote catcher. But actually, as long as the temple issue was on the table, you could infuriate the masses to
Right.
come out and vote in
yeah,
big numbers. Now that
Right.
the temple is done and dusted, now what? And when actually an event like that happens, then it crystallizes that nothing is going to change magically.
yeah,
ये
Right.
एक मंदिर उधर बनाने से and especially in India where you already have millions of temples for Lord Ram alone,
Hmm.
forget about the other deities.
yeah,
How is one temple, even if it is in Ayodhya, how is it going to make any difference? So that probably that realization has started to dawn on people that okay, we did this grand experiment has reached its peak, but now what? Now we need something more. And BAP had nothing more. They were just saying Modi ji ki guarantee. What does it even mean? Like, what is your actual concrete agenda for the next term? They should have
Yeah.
come out with something that they. You're right that they were pretty complacent. They didn't think that it was even necessary to, have a solid platform for this election.
Yeah.
Just saying that we are BJP, we are Modi, so that you need to vote for us. They thought that was enough.
Yeah. So, Jiva sir, you're from Tamil Nadu, and it's like one of the states that has simply not budged to the Hindutva wave, right? Like, it is like 39-0, even after all that hype about Annamalai, there's Onnumillai for the BJP now. So, did you think that Annamalai would make an impact? And now that he hasn't, why do you think he didn't?
No, I still think they have made an impact. Of course, it's not reflecting in the seats, but you look at the way Tamils have voted, right?
Yeah,
I'm seeing in Chennai South, which is largely, I mean, Chennai usually was a DMK citadel.
yeah,
Of course, in the some 20 years, 15 years ago. Then later, Jayalalitha was able to make some headway and they were able to split the vote. But again, Chennai South had voted for Tamilisai South Rajat. She has emerged second. In nearly 12 constituencies, BJP has emerged second. The reason I still think Annamalai has made a very considerable impact, though it's not reflecting on the number of seats they have won. And there is some kind of polarization that has happened here. DMK is not a party that will be able to win consecutive elections like this. DMK has never won elections like this. DMK
yeah,
it has always been like Kerala. Okay, EDMK, ADMK, that has always been the case.
yeah,
But later, ADMK, Jayalalitha was able to break that. But even despite that, the only thing that keeps pushing the DMK winning is the presence of BJP. So
right,
a very considerable set of people are going against BJP. They are very, very sure that they don't need an alien party like BJP in their fold. Here in Tamil Nadu, right? We
yeah,
consider only DMK, ADMK, PMK, all those parties are ours. So
yeah,
any national party, including the Congress now, okay, Congress is still seen as a national party. It has nothing to do with us. If the Congress contests the election alone, right, it would definitely not get more than 2 to 3%. I'm very, very sure about that,
yeah,
especially given their very dismal organizational structure here. So we have almost become a very regional island.
yeah,
So we give importance only to local people. That was how it was. But now I'm seeing a polarization that is happening. BJP, you either vote for the BJP or against it. That was what
right,
has happened here. So DMK has won only because a considerable section of people are still very they don't really want the BJP to enter here. So they are ready to support a party like DMK. DMK, as you know, right, they don't have a very great record when it
yeah,
comes to governance. You know,
yeah,
I mean, in 2011, when they lost the elections, right? They people had, and the number two party was Vijaykanth's. The
yeah,
DMK was not number two. DMK was pushed to the third place. People thought
yeah,
DMK story was over. They were very arrogant. They were very flagrant about it. So it was like people are never going back to the DMK. And even in 2016, they lost. So, but when you see now, it has won 3 elections on the trot.
yeah,
And the only reason why it has happened is there is still a wave against the BJP. And on the other hand, there is some amount of headway that the BJP has been able to make among the Tamil populace. Some 15% of Tamils are voting for the BJP. So it's like more people are being pushed against the BJP and some amount of people are going for the BJP. So it has
right,
become like, and again, if you look at the campaign of Stalin, right? He
yeah,
kept he never even mentioned the ADMK. He kept I
yeah,
mean he was referring to this election as something against DMK and the BJP. He was talking about national politics all the time.
yeah,
So there was a amount of a polarization here, and they have the BJP has got 15% seats, and I'm sure maybe in 2029 they will definitely emerge as the second largest party, provided the ADMK doesn't spring a miracle. But I'm really surprised that people who didn't even know the presence of a BJP a decade ago. Here, people never considered BJP a political party in Tamil Nadu. Even in TV debates, right? They used to invite only DMK, ADMK people or VCK or PMK. Before 2014, we never had a BJP person talking in a TV debate. But nowadays, it has become very common. So what I see is, as such, there is very strong polarization against the BJP and some amount of polarization towards the BJP. Maybe in this election, it has not reflected in terms of seats, but there is definitely BJP has done really well. They got 18%. I mean, yeah, 17% of vote, and they have contested only in. BJP has won 12 to 13%. They have contested only in 22 seats. Had they contested in all the 40 seats, their percentage would have been higher. So that is something which we should not really be ignoring.
Yeah, I